We are live. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is Backdrop Thursday. Today, we are going to give a little update on where we are with Backdrop CMS. Our general goals of the project is to create a Drupal 8 comparable feature set for Backdrop CMS that'll be on an architecture that is more similar to Drupal 7. Backdrop 1 obviously won't have all of the same features as Drupal 8, but we will get closer to that goal as time goes forward. While we are adding all of these new features, we're also going to be fixing bugs that exist in Drupal 7, in Drupal 8, and ones that we have discovered on our own. And we're also going to be simplifying existing systems when that doesn't require too much API change to do so, and adding new features. And same rule goes there. New APIs are fine. Changing existing ones will, of course, affect contrib, so we don't want to do that too much. Our timeline, we like to have Backdrop 1 out this fall, so fall 2014. And then further releases will come on a regular basis, so every quarter we'll try and get a new version of, minor version of Backdrop out. Project status. We are working on 3 major things that are release blockers. The first one is our blocks and layout system. We're Nate's adding a little status update in there. So Nate, do you want to just say what's going on with that for now?
Yeah, sure. So our blocks and layouts initiative is coming along really nicely. We've gotten to the point that we have the capability to entirely replace the way blocks work currently, and a wrapper around all of the existing blocks so that all of the existing blocks can be placed with layouts right now, which is great. Which means that you can do stuff like, put the same block in different regions on different pages, for example. It's looking really good. And settings are saved per layout, so you can have different settings for the same block in different locations. What we're trying to do in the short term is go ahead and get it so the layouts are fully replacing the read system and themes. And then get that system into core, basically just replacing the existing block system. The architecture is fully built out as a port of panels and page manager, so we have the capability to do things like contexts and conditions and access rules and all of this great stuff. And all of that stuff, it actually works, and we have a limited number of build-outs on there, but we haven't done more complex things like field level layout, for example. Like, you can't place individual fields yet. But I think that our short-term goal should be just getting rid of the region system and replacing it with layouts. And then from there, expanding that out to do individual fields and some of the more complex things that you can do in panels, like layout, like a form, and fields in a form, for example. So I think that we're really close on that. We'll probably see that for certain by the end of September. Layout module in core replacing the read system. So things are moving along great there. And as we have in the agenda, the piece that we have remaining on top of all of that is doing conversions. Like converting the stuff that used to be in panels into layouts to make it so that we have a comparable system to panels as we would want in layouts. So it's looking great, all told. I think once we get this thing replacing the theme system, like, it's going to be huge. It's going to be just a huge improvement for our system, and one of our biggest differentiators.
Yay!
Yay! I realize that my image is really, but there's not much I can do about that.
It's all right. Let's see. Next things we're working on, views in core. We've got views module, the #1 downloaded module for Drupal 7, in core for Backdrop. We need help with converting some of the existing pages that are in core into views, and also some of the actions that go along, like views bulk update operations. We have those in core in Drupal 7. They weren't part of views, but we need to make sure that we get those same features in that are part of views in Backdrop. So we need some help with those. We're also working on config management, and it looks like we have almost all of the simple stuff converted. All of the variables are moved over, almost all of them. But we have some really complex conversions that we're going to need help with And these things are probably most important because they are our biggest release blockers. So that is converting things like content types and fields from using database storage as it works currently to using the new CMI system that is ready and waiting for it. So if we have anyone who's super interested in working on CMI or wants to see how CMI will work for Backdrop and is really familiar with how fields config storage works, we could definitely use some help with that. Other things we're working on, we've got a bunch of cross-ports from Drupal. So Drupal 7 cross-ports, we have 3 security issues that we need to solve for Backdrop. We have a handful of issues from Drupal 7.2.4 through 7.3.1. I was going to try and close out the 7.2.4 to 7.27 issue today once I get all my current pull requests pushed up and start all the testing running. That was what I was going to tackle to get that out of the way. But we have some new ones too, the 7.28 to 31. I'm not sure if anyone's been working on those yet. I went through and marked a couple of them NA if they didn't apply to us. But those should be fairly straightforward. And then we have a bunch of backports from Drupal 8 that are less urgent, but we should probably look at anyway. HTML5 issues, I think the only one we're waiting on there is getting the search element in, but that is blocked on getting the normalized.css file in because search won't work correctly on older browsers unless we get some fixes in there. So that I think is the last one for HTML5. And then we have some CSS cleanup and JavaScript cleanup that should be fairly straightforward, but I want to look over some of those and make sure that they're adhering to our coding standards as opposed to Drupal's, at least in the patches. And then there's a couple of other things that we're also working on. Separating Backdrop's identity from Drupal. We've made a couple of really great strides in this already. We've got our own installer branding. We've got some work going on a style guide for our admin theme. What we need to do now is just finish up that admin theme style guide and then apply the style to the actual admin theme. And that'll include some things like changing fonts and making sure that the font change isn't going to break all of our line spacing everywhere, and just kind of do it real carefully for the 7 theme. And then we've got some user experience improvements going in as well. Rich text editor is lower priority than some of the other things on our list, so we haven't worked on it yet, but it can also go in after the 1.0.0 release. So we aren't leaving it off entirely. We're just postponing it till we get some of these other things done. But we have been doing a bunch of work on cleaning up terminology in user interfaces. So we put in the admin menu, reorganized and renamed some of that. We're working on a modules page cleanup, which I think, I'm not sure it's passing tests, but we do have a pull request for that, which I think will help a lot too. And then we've got some other things like menu system cleanup and just some kind of no-brainer improvements that I think Drupal 8 is also doing. So it'd be good to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page there. And we've already got our registration form, password stuff improved. There's a lot of good stuff going on in terms of user experience, which I think is great. And then the last thing that we're working on is the theme system cleanup. And again, this is going to be tied to how blocks and layouts work because the theme system for so long has been dependent on regions. But while we're working on replacing the page template, there's a bunch of other stuff we're cleaning up too in the theme system, like removing the process layer, putting variables either into preprocess or into templates, variable preparation. So there's definitely some other cleanup that we're working on at the same time. So I think this should all come together here in the next few months. I'm super excited about it. I think we're making a really awesome product that is very similar to Drupal 7 and hopefully will be easy for people to move on to. So that is success in my book. I don't think we have any updates from the PMC this week. Maybe we should just reiterate last week we made an announcement that we decided to drop support for SQLite and Postgres, which is kind of a huge thing in terms of us saying like we're the 80% use case. That's definitely not, and I think like making some changes that back that up is really good. It also paves the way for some serious improvements in terms of how our database abstraction system works, right? Like right now we can now optimize for MySQL, which is good. We can make some improvements over how it works. And then in the future, we have the ability to do things like take a good hard look at dbTNG and decide whether that is really necessary in Backdrop 2. We're leaving it in for 1 just to help with the upgrade path from 7 to Backdrop. But I think it is definitely setting the right tone for what our project is going to be about. And I'm super excited about being able to do things like that. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, exciting. So yeah, the specialization there is that we're basically going to, well, long term we're going to remove the database abstraction since now we don't need it since we're MySQL specific. So we're going to start optimizing for MySQL specific enhancements, which should give us some performance improvements in places where previously we were doing a lot of backwards compatible stuff or least common denominator stuff that was slowing stuff down. So yeah, very exciting.
So other things that we're working on that aren't Backdrop the project itself are our API website. I've noticed that it's up. I've started actually using it. It's not super pretty. We don't have a theme on it yet, but it's functional, which is great. And I know we're working on getting change record content type set up, and then as soon as that's ready, we're also going to need some help just creating those change records. So anyone who can create nodes can become very useful to us all of a sudden, even if you aren't comfortable writing code. We have a lot of things that just need to be kind of documented or at least started. If you're not confident publishing it, that's okay. Get us most of the way there, and we can help review and get that done. So I think that'll be great, a good place to get a whole bunch of new people involved. And then we're also working on an update server. This is a machine that your Backdrop site can check with to let you know whether you need to update core or contrib. GitHub Service, which is a tool that will allow you to register any contributed Backdrop project on GitHub as being a Backdrop project so that the Backdrop CMS primary website can pick it up and list it, which I think will be really great. And then we also have some minor improvements going on to our primary website. We have a new style guide. We need to kind of implement it, and we need to add some new features for when we launch our product. So when Backdrop comes out, we're going to need to have a little bit more information on the site than is there now. So we're going to get a redesign and some new sections, which is great. And anyone who wants to help with any of those things, obviously let us know. It's not working on Backdrop itself, but it is equally important, if not maybe even more so. And let's see. We've got sprints, so it's Thursday. We're going to be sprinting all afternoon today on it, and most Thursdays going forward. We're going to have 2 presences at Drupal camps in the near future. We're going to be at LA Drupal and at the Pacific Northwest Drupal Summit. If those camp organizers are open to it, we would like to have sprints there. I'm not sure what their timing is like, and their situation may differ for each camp, but we can definitely sponsor both Drupal 8 and Backdrop development and try and make that happen. So keep your ears open for that if you're in either of those areas. And then, of course, we've got the Bay Area Drupal Camp November 6th through 9th. The website is launching this week, so if you want to register, that'll be really fun. We're going to have, I think it's going to be a 4-day-long core sprint for Drupal 8. And Nate, maybe you and I should pick like one day to do a little bit of Backdrop stuff there as well. And we can kind of gather the forces, and if they want to keep working, they can. But that way, we've got, well, I anyway, other stuff going on. We should definitely get that going too.
Okay.
And then let's see, we've got a couple of events coming up where we're going to be talking about Backdrop. Obviously, Drupal Camp LA, maybe the Pacific Northwest Drupal Summit. I haven't submitted a session there yet, but we could do that. We have HTML5 Developer Conference in San Francisco this fall, where we're also going to be talking about Backdrop. We've got a speaking slot, which is super exciting because most of the other speakers are people who work at Firefox and Google, and they're talking about what's going on in the future of the internet. And so I think it'll be really great to go in and talk about the future of CMSs and offer Backdrop as a viable alternative there. So I think that'll be really fun to kind of give a very different kind of talk rather than being, you know, what is Backdrop related to Drupal, right? It's now what is Backdrop to the world. Which is a very different spin, and hopefully will get us some new members that don't know anything about Drupal but are still interested in Backdrop. So I'm really excited about doing that and seeing kind of what the larger world of web thinks of what we're doing. I guess that's it. Is there anything you want to add, Nate, that we haven't covered already?
No, I don't think so. we'll just keep chugging along. It's Thursday, so we'll be doing Backdrop. There's a lot of pull requests that are on my plate, and I'm going to be reviewing them and merging them in today. So that's it.
Okay, that sounds great. If anyone has any questions, you can find us in IRC at #Backdrop. You can tweet at us at BackdropCMS, or you can email us, I think, through our website. But we're around and happy to answer questions as needed. So thanks all for joining and watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye, guys.